Okay, let's dive right into this. We're talking about two huge energy stories playing out at the exact same time. One is happening on this massive national scale, totally reinventing the power grid. And the other is happening on a really personal scale, changing the way millions of people keep their homes warm. It sounds like a riddle, right? But honestly, this is the central challenge for the entire green energy transition. How in the world do you take these colossal new wind and solar farms, which are usually built way out in the middle of nowhere, and safely plug them into the grids that our cities absolutely depend on? So first up, let's tackle the grid. And let me tell you, this is a big one. Trying to modernize the world's electrical systems for renewable energy is, without a doubt, one of the most mind-bendingly complex engineering puzzles we have ever tried to solve. This idea of open-heart surgery, it just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the stakes. You can't just flip a switch and turn off the power grid for a few days while you tinker with it. Engineers have to make these incredibly delicate, high-stakes changes to a living, breathing system that has to keep running 24/7. No pressure, right? Okay, so here's the real heart of the problem, the stability challenge. Think of old power, from coal or gas. It's like a faucet you can turn on and it just flows, steady and constant. But renewable energy from wind and solar, it's totally different. It's unpredictable. So what happens when a giant cloud suddenly covers a solar farm or the wind just stops? That fluctuation, that variability creates a massive risk for the grid and could, seriously, lead to widespread blackouts. And if that wasn't tricky enough, there's a huge communication problem. Just picture this, a single energy project where the wind turbines are Danish, the grid operators are German, the software is American. It's like a tech United Nations. And if all their different models and software don't speak the same technical language, well, it becomes almost impossible to connect everything together safely and reliably. But what if there was a solution? What if there were some kind of universal adapter, a single standard to make everything just click together? Well, that's exactly where the story is going. The key to all of this is something called dynamic simulation. Now, it sounds complicated, but think of it as the ultimate video game for engineers. They create these incredibly detailed virtual copies of the power grid and then just throw everything at them. Sudden drops in solar power, huge gusts of wind, to see what happens. It's their shared playbook, the essential tool for making sure the real grid doesn't collapse. And here it is. This is the breakthrough. This wasn't just one country working alone. After 4 years of intense work, experts from China and 13 other nations, we're talking Germany, France, the US, all the heavy hitters, they all came together and created the very first international standard for this playbook. One unified, universal language for everyone. And this USB-C analogy, it's absolutely perfect. You remember, right? The drawer full of a dozen different chargers for every phone and camera you owned? It was a nightmare. Then USB-C came along, and now one cable, one standard, connects pretty much everything. This new grid standard does the exact same thing for renewable power. It's a universal plug-and-play system, making sure clean energy from any company, from any country, can be safely plugged into any grid. So how does this actually get out into the real world? Well, it's a 4-step cascade. First, the folks making the gear, the turbines and solar panels, start building to this new spec. Then, the people running the grid use it as the gold standard to approve new projects. Next, the software guys build it right into their simulation tools. And finally, the regulators write it into the official rulebooks. It creates this seamless, standardized system from the factory floor all the way to national policy. All right, so now that this universal language is in place, it opens the door for renewable energy projects on a scale that is just, well, it's hard to even imagine. Just try to get your head around this number, 455 million kilowatts. That's the target for these massive new energy bases China is building out in its deserts. To give you some perspective, that's enough juice to power something like 260 million homes for a whole year. The scale is it's absolutely staggering. And look, this isn't some pie-in-the-sky plan for the future. It's happening right now. New energy has actually, officially, overtaken coal to become the #1 power source in China's system. It already accounts for a massive 42% of the country's total capacity. Okay, so we've been talking about the massive, big picture stuff, the entire national power grid. But now let's zoom all the way in. Let's go from the high voltage power lines right down to the dangers that can lurk inside a single home. Because when winter arrives, the simple act of staying warm can bring its own invisible and very serious threats. You have to understand, in the past, Heating in northern China was all about one thing: coal. We're talking a mind-boggling 83% of all heating. And a lot of this wasn't from big power plants. It came from small, often inefficient, and really polluting stoves inside people's homes, especially out in rural areas. And the danger here is literally microscopic. Burning coal indoors releases these superfine particles called PM 2.5. They're 30 times smaller than one of your hairs. They're so tiny they just slip past all your body's natural defenses, getting deep into your lungs and even into your bloodstream, causing all sorts of serious health problems. So the risks here are incredibly serious. You've got the silent killer, carbon monoxide poisoning from stoves that aren't burning properly. You have the constant threat of fires. And on top of all that, you have these long-term health problems from breathing in that polluted air day after day. But the good news is, this is changing. And it's changing fast. China is rolling out one of the biggest clean heating campaigns on the planet, swapping out those old dangers for new, much safer technologies. And the really smart thing here is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Instead, they've got this whole toolkit of options. For some places, it's super efficient heat pumps. For others, it's natural gas. In some areas, they're even capturing waste heat from factories and piping it straight to people's homes. It's all about using the right tool for the job. And when you put the old way next to the new way, the difference is just night and day. On safety, you go from a high risk of poisoning and fire to, basically zero risk because there's nothing burning inside your house. On health, you go from polluted indoor air to clean air. And on efficiency, it's a total game changer. It's just a complete upgrade across the board. So, when you step back and look at the whole picture, from creating a universal language for the entire world's power grid to changing how millions and millions of individual homes stay warm, these are not small changes. They are monumental shifts. And it really leaves you with a big question to chew on. As the entire global energy map gets redrawn right before our eyes, who is it that's going to be writing the rules for the next chapter?